Welcome to File Structure and Naming. In this video, you'll understand that there is no one way of setting up your filing system. That's certainly true, and it will often depend on the project itself. Now, if you have a personal style of filing and you don't like mine, use yours. That's absolutely fine. And of course, remember to talk with your team. You will form guidelines based from your own needs and experience moving forward. Now, there is some rigidity. In a team environment, you will have guidelines so you can discuss with colleagues what you actually need for the particular project you're working on, and it can change from project to project. Now, some software might expect certain things to be stored and named in a certain way. So if you've got those constraints, it's best to set it up from the very start to match what other software might be expecting. Now, moving on to naming, very important. In a team, or if you're just working yourself with a large project, it is very critical that you can find your assets, materials, textures, or whatever you've been creating. So naming files well will help you and others find them and know what they are by just reading the name. There are some naming conventions that we will use in this section, and we'll get to those when we need to. So in Blender itself, in the actual program, not the file system, we're going to be making much more complex scenes than we've previously made. Organize it as you go, not afterwards when it's a complete mess. Organize it as you go so it never becomes a complete mess. And use descriptive names. Cube and Cube 001, etc. is not helpful to anyone, especially not yourself. It's really easy to get in a pickle when you're focused on the modeling. You look over at your outliner and you just hang your head in shame and despair because there's no way you can work out what anything is anymore. So let's just have a quick look how I've got my system set up. So I am, of course, on a Mac here, and I have my home directory, Michael Bridges, and within that itself I have a folder called Repos. Now, the reason why I have a folder called Repos is that's where the repository is going to be, so we can actually start using SourceTree. We've got it all set up now, but there's no point we can't do anything in it yet until we have made our file system. So let's go ahead, and as you can see here in the repos, I've got the various sections of the course because I use the VCS to manage the actual lectures themselves. So mine will end up looking slightly different from yours as we hop in and out of SourceTree, but don't worry about that. In fact, everybody's going to look completely different depending on how you set things up. So if I go into the game asset pack now, we can see I've got a README file in there. That's just a description. The .md means Markdown. It could just as easily be a text file. And I've created two folders here. An example one, sound, for instance, if you were working by adding sound into your scene as well. But the main one here for us is an assets folder. And inside there, I've got meshes and textures. Those are the two main ones that we're going to need to move forward. And I've created just a shortcut here, and we'll go into more details of what all those hieroglyphics there mean in terms of the texture naming conventions, and then the meshes themselves, what that is going to mean as well. So there's lots of things that you can do in terms of filing. You could store all of your stuff in one particular folder for one particular model and group everything by that particular model itself. I am going to go for more of a flat approach. I would recommend not going more than 3 levels deep because then it becomes a bit unwieldy, and if you've got to go 3 levels just for one item, that's going to be time consuming. And again, if you've named your files appropriately, you should also be able to use your built-in search function in order to find items, especially once it gets much busier in our file system. It's challenge time. I'd like you to set up your working directory. So place your reference material that you've gathered here, create your necessary folders that you require. Remember, there isn't a right way of doing this. And of course, be prepared to reorganize later if you find it isn't quite working out. Just bear in mind, when you start moving things, you break links. So it is important that we don't break too many links if you need to reorganize later. I'd love to see how you guys have set up your working directory. Are you going for a similar method that I am, or have you gone for a completely different method? Please share your work in the discussions. This will be the end of this lecture. I'm not going to ask you to pause and go away. Just go ahead and go do that, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.